Hey guys, I'm getting ready for another expedition. Yeah, I keep telling myself that I've got enough sets to last me probably the rest of my life. But this set had been sitting on eBay for a while, and the price had lowered a little bit. I saw it get relisted for make an offer. Nobody else was biting on it, so made an offer and I accepted it. Now, it's already a set I've got that you've seen in a video, but this one is in really fantastic condition from what I've seen of the photos. Plus, I have a new vehicle, and it'd be nice to really get out on the road. So yeah, after 21 years, the Volkswagen GTI got retired. I actually donated it to charity, and my new job is right next to a Honda dealership. So on my lunch break, I just went in and bought a new car after doing some research. It's a Honda HR-V, which is a fairly new model. It's sort of a slightly smaller version of the popular CR-V. So it's a mini SUV, all-wheel drive, gets great gas mileage. I'm getting like 35 on the highway. And I don't really want this video to turn into a car review, but there's one thing that I really like about this, in particular for transporting TVs. So it's like many hatchbacks. The seats fold down, nothing new there. But this seat can do something else that should make transporting console sets in the upright position a real snap. The bottom folds up and snaps out of the way. So I'm hoping the console will just fit in right here, upright. You got to take a little strap, or I forget exactly how, but there's a way to keep this up and out of the way. And this folds down. So you can put a console up on it so we won't have to lay things on the side in the back seat, or actually, oh, there, it snaps up on its own. So, assuming I can kind of get it past the door opening here, it should stand. I know once it's in there, there'll be enough room. I just put a little padding against this, or maybe I can push this back out of the way even more, but I'm really hoping it'll fit in right here. If not, I can fold the seats down and put it on its side in the back. Won't be a problem. Either way, I am going to get going way up north to go pick up this set. And I will record any video along the way if anything interesting happens, and I will certainly, once I get the set in my possession.
On a cold winter night, you feel in touch with the modern world. Not feel so lonely in the cold night. Not feel so lonely when it's late at night. Have the radio on and feel like a roller. Now I'm in love with my own loneliness. It doesn't bother me to feel so alone. At least I'm not staying alone at all. I'm out exploring the modern world by the pine trees and the Howard Johnsons on Route 128 when it's late at night. Well, we're heading from the north shore to the south shore. Well, I see Route 3 in my sight, and I'm a road runner. Spirit of 1956, patient in the bushes next to 57. The Howard's my only girlfriend now as I drive by so quick the suburban tree. And so it smells like heaven. Say, road runner once, road runner twice. I'm in love with this feeling now, and I'm a road runner. Got the radio, that's right, I got the AM. I got the AM, I got the power. I feel in touch with the world as I drive by in the dark. Let's go down to 120.
Mission accomplished just as the rain starts. What it is a Motorola VK106, came with Sam's. When I make a pit stop, I'll try to shoot a little video and give you guys a peek at the actual set. And I couldn't take a trip up north without stopping by the Mars Cheese Pals. Wow, that was way too much driving, but I'm finally home. So here we can get a look at it. Ended up not flipping the seat up after all. I just laid it on its side. And as it appeared in the photos, this thing is in fantastic condition. Here's a look at the back side of it, and check out this chassis. If that's an indication of what the rest of it's like, that thing is pristine. Still has the mesh cover on the bottom, which are often missing. It's got the original back in fantastic condition, even has the original power cord. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's a replacement. Regardless, it is the proper type and looks to be in good condition. Here's a look at the rest of it in some dim lighting. I'll see if I can lug this out on my own. Kind of an interesting design. I think it's got a stepped element to it, and the front's got some interesting wood grain. I think it's real veneer. Grill cloth's in great condition. It's got all the knobs. So let's take a quick look at the rest of it if I can pull it out. Not sure when I'll get it up inside, but until I do, I don't think I'll be taking the back off or pulling the chassis. And here it is. Now, what's notable about this is it's one of Motorola's first models. And unlike the little 7-inch sets, this uses a magnetic deflection CRT 10BP4. And it's got a power transformer and more robust design than the little electrostatic 7-inch sets that Motorola sold so many of. Real nice grill cloth. So I'll be curious to take a closer look inside. The seller did post some photos with the back off, so I know the chassis looks to be in pretty good shape. No pictures of the underside though, and I don't know if the picture tube's any good or not. Here it is an entire week later, and I finally have time to dig into this set. I've been waiting all week to check out the condition of the chassis. Now, it's got the original back, which is in fantastic condition. So I got an old label on here, Interstate Radio Company, and the address is obliterated, so I'm not sure what that would have said. I asked the guy I got this from what its history was, and I believe he said he got it from a TV repair shop in the Midwest, so I suspect it's lived its entire life in and around the Illinois-Wisconsin area. Most of what I believe are the original screws were present. There were 3 missing along the bottom, and I like these type of screws. They're both flat blade and hex, so either tool will work to get these off. I'm not sure about that power cord. I suspect it's a replacement because they probably would have originally had rivets on here, but it is the proper type of non-polarized with the ears on it. Oh, one more screw to go. And that fuse holder there, that is original to the set. Not many sets from this era had them. But, yeah, that is original, even though it looks like a modern one. And it takes a modern type of a fuse, 1.25 long, I think. Alright, so there's the back. And now we know when it was made, November 15th of 1948. They made several revisions of this chassis. The 9D would be the last, I believe. Now, it is a pretty primitive design, and I'm surprised because they introduced this set in early '48, so they made it for maybe an entire year, even though it was a kind of a crude design and probably a bit expensive to make compared to later designs where they got the TV thing kind of figured out a bit better, so they could use a few less tubes and a little less hardware. One oddball thing about this set, you notice right away, is the flyback is just sitting out here with the high voltage rectifier. That's how they made them. There was no metal box that would shield you over this. Typically, though, there was a shield, and it was attached to the back of the back, and it would be a metal piece of metal. And I thought this was going to have it, but it doesn't. I've certainly seen it on other sets, and including the tabletop version, which I also have, and I'm pretty sure that does have it, but this one does not. It'd be like well, a metal box that would be on the back, and when you put it on, it would provide some shielding over that. And I was curious that it's kind of painted in this area, and it does look a little metallic, so perhaps that's a conductive coating on the back. And when you would attach this, it provides some shielding. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it would do a whole lot, but I can't really think of any other reason why it would be painted like that in that area. Or perhaps the versions when they did have the metal back put on there, this formed one side of it, and it did have the rest of the shell on there. I don't know, curious. I'm a little disappointed because I was kind of hoping to have that present. I could fabricate one if I needed to. Now right away there's something else odd about this set. The first time I saw this chassis, I thought there's something really wrong because you got this huge opening up there where there's nothing. They must have used this for other products. There's also an empty hole there and there. But that's pretty huge. What I'm thinking is maybe it was for a combo radio or combo set that would have had a radio that fit in there. It's a pretty darn big area. But no, nothing's missing. That's just how they come. So 10 BP4 picture tube, and then the usual. It's got the deflection yoke and focus coil and ion trap magnet, and there's power transformer. That's a bit unusual that it's located kind of midway back on the chassis. Tuner up front, some filter caps. And then a whole mess of tubes, and there's a doorknob capacitor again, just hanging out in the open for anybody to get shocked by. Alright, so what I really want to know is what is the condition underneath here, because there's a metal mesh piece, so I can't look up through the bottom of the cabinet and see what's going on. Looks like we've only got 2 bolts holding the chassis in. And then I think I got to take all the knobs off, which could be a little tricky because I think one of them has a set screw on it. And then I'll want to be careful not to tear this off, so I'll disconnect the antenna connection too. Yes, indeed, there are set screws on the channel knob, which I'm sure confused some servicemen back in the day. It's far more common for sets to just have knobs that pull off like all the rest of them do. This is the only knob that has set screws on it, so I'm sure plenty of servicemen just try to yank on it. Also odd with the very close placement of the actual channels. And it's a rather small knob, so just a little turn to go from one channel to the next. Alright, so just 2 bolts to get out. Disconnect the antenna down below, and then pull it out. Alright, here it finally is, out of the cabinet. I think this control has been replaced, but I can't say for sure. Soldering and wiring looks a little crummy, and the blue plastic kind of stands out. And on the other VK106 I've got, I think that control looked funky too, so maybe that was an issue back in the day. That would be the most commonly used, your power volume. But otherwise, I think this just might be all original like I hoped, because all the paper caps I'm seeing have Motorola logos on them. Just like I've seen in the electrostatic sets. Which makes this a prime candidate for restuffing all the paper caps. When I get something this original, I like to preserve it if possible. And this big power transformer. So see, it's relatively simple. If you look at the schematic, it's got a lot going on. They just crammed it all together down in this area, but I believe it has DC restoration. It's a pretty solid design, decent video bandwidth, and definitely an odd design. Motorola, I think, pretty much went on their own with this design rather than licensing anything from, say, RCA. Like this tuner, I'm sure is completely homegrown. I've never seen any other set use something quite like it. I think there's wafer switches, several decks of it, with all these coils stuck in all around the outside. That must have taken a lot of time and effort to tweak all of those coils for every channel. Here's that giant empty area that I presume was meant for something in some versions. This guy looks kind of odd. Maybe a replacement. Yeah, I can see there's a little hook and solder joint on there, so this resistor capacitor is probably a replacement. Actually, there's a lead cut off down there. Well, that's a shame, but otherwise it looks to be pretty darn original. Alright, cool. Well, now that I've got the thing taken apart, I think it's a good time to bring it up inside, divide and conquer, and bring up the chassis separate from the cabinet. Here's a tube chart. Looks like somebody made some notes on it. Maybe they didn't mark off the tubes they had checked. Alright, so I think this might be the end of the video. I'll bring this up inside, put some felt pads on the bottom. It still has the old metal caps underneath. I want to get those off so I don't scratch my floors, and put some felt pads under there. And I try to fit this into my restoration schedule. Don't know when it'll be, but I'd like to work on it sooner than later. I'm going to close out this installment with a look at the cabinet. While I've got the chassis out, I figured it was a great time to clean it up. So the first thing I did was to take off this plastic bezel, which freed up the safety glass, which I then took out and cleaned with some glass cleaner. And while I had that out, I went over the whole cabinet with this Gojo pumice-free waterless hand cleaner. Does a fantastic job cleaning off goo and grime and old wax and whatnot off the cabinet without harming the finish. But it still didn't look so good on top, especially because there was a ring back here and it was pretty rough and alligatored. So what I did, not for the faint of heart, but I've done this a few times and I knew the condition wasn't good enough condition that could handle it, is I sanded it with 600 grit sandpaper. And I used some restore finish, not to really restore the finish, but just as a lubricant to effectively do some wet sanding. And then I went over it with some Bellin Deluxing compound, which is a wax. And I think it's got a mild abrasive in there. Does a nice job bringing back old finishes. So here's what we've got now. Not perfect. In fact, this whole finish is not in as good a condition as I originally thought. Certainly better than the other example I have of this model, but once I got the knobs off and took a closer look, this is what the original finish looked like. So much darker and smoother. So this is sun faded, most likely, and it's alligator. And in the voids where the finish is cracked, it's a bit lighter. But I certainly am not going to strip it. It's a way too conditioned for that, especially it's got the nice decals. So we'll continue to go over the rest of the cabinet. And down here, it's really flaking off bad. This may actually be paint that was then clear coated. It's an opaque trim stripe along here. I think eventually I'll mask off the rest of the cabinet and go over that. Similarly, up along here, it's coming off. But otherwise, yeah, this cabinet's in pretty darn good condition considering how old the finish is, and the grill cloth is also in very, very nice condition. So as always, I don't know when I'll get to this, but when I do, I think I will do the tabletop version I have at the same time. And here is that tabletop version, the VT105, a real classic in the collecting world. This also has a pretty good original finish, but similar issues with the alligatoring. So I'll see what I can do to touch this one up as well when I get to it. I've already ordered up parts for both. I got service info. I want to work on both at the same time, just like I've been doing with the Dumont 113 chassis, so I can refer to one while working on the other. That's definitely a luxury when you have multiple examples of the same chassis. Alright, that is going to be it. I hope you enjoyed this look at picking up a Motorola VK106.